I have cleaned up the mating surface for the oil pan, which, as I mentioned before, does not include a gasket. Same for the main seal plate. No gasket, it's sealer. Got that cleaned up. I'm gonna take the oil pickup tube out and tape up the bottom end and the rear main seal so I can get serious about descaling and then painting this block. Serial number, I suppose, looks like 4960651 on the Daihatsu Midget engine. So the rear main crank seal arrived earlier than expected. Unlike the other videos that I made where I mentioned all the aftermarket ones I'm getting are terracotta in color, this is black like the original. And there are more than just this single supplier, I believe, but this is who I ordered from, and there's your part number. And I think that 58 by 74 by 10, I think 58 is the inside, 74 is the outside, and 10 is the width of it in millimeters. I believe I'm right. If not, somebody please correct me. I have the rear main seal in place. I'm waiting on the RTV, room temperature vulcanizing sealant to cure for an hour before I torque that plate down. Next, I'll do the water pump, and there are some part numbers for you. Those are the gaskets. Getting ready to reinstall the thermostat coolant neck and sensor. In order to make sure that you guys know about this, you probably do, but if you're having difficulty finding the right gasket or you don't want to wait, you can buy gasket material. This is from my local Advanced Auto Parts, about $12 for a pretty good sized roll. You can buy this, get the right type, and make your own gaskets. That's what I'm going to do on this water neck. One thing I'm figuring out as I'm cutting this gasket material is this is a pretty lousy old X-Acto, but even with a sharp one, I think it's better to use pushing pressure like this to make your cuts than to try to drag it through. I get a cleaner cut on the areas that I'm pushing down to pierce the paper rather than dragging the knife through it. Yeah, working on a wood table and just slowly pushing to pierce the gasket's giving me a much cleaner cut than trying to drag the knife through the material. All right, I have the oil pan on, finger tight on the retaining fasteners. The RTV that I'm using says wait 1 hour for curing before torquing down. Finger tight only until then, so that's what I'm doing. Got about half an hour left on that. I'm about to finally, I said I was going to install the water pump earlier, but I didn't. But I'm about to do it, and because this new water pump comes with felt gaskets, I don't think you're supposed to use RTV if you have gaskets, so no RTV on the water pump. One of the things I intend to do while I have the engine out is to turn the engine over with a power drill and test compression, which I've got kind of in place right now, but I need to get the belt on first. But I'm also going to check the oil pressure at, I think my drill does 300 RPM. And there's a sensor here. This is the bottom side of the engine where the oil filter and the exhaust is. And this would be the top side of the engine with the air intake, which the plenum is removed. And we have just 3 pickups on this. And I'm really confident that that is water temperature. I think that is also water temperature. And this one's going to be my oil pressure sending unit. Pretty sure that when I take it out, I'll be able to tell, because if it's the oil pressure sending unit, there'll be oil on it rather than coolant. We shall see. Yeah, pretty sure that this is the oil sending unit, that would be the bottom side of the engine when it's installed, same side with the oil filter and the exhaust. The bolt size is 24 millimeters. That might save you some time. And yeah, I'm pretty sure that's the oil galley. I can't pick it up very well on the screen, but to my eye, I see engine oil in there. So I believe that's the oil pressure sending unit on the bottom side of the engine. I'm working on the timing belt install right now. There's part numbers on the new idler pulley. And the belt itself, this is the brand I'm putting on, but the package has no part number. So let's see here. Yeah, there's a part number on the new belt. I'm gonna align my tabs up. I'll do that in just a minute. It took me a lot longer to get the timing in phase than I would like to admit, but I finally did it. I keep having to, because the cover is part of the timing, I had to keep putting it on, taking it off, and everything in there is just finger tight right now. But now that I know that I have the cam and the crank in time, then I'm going to disassemble it again, leave the belt on, of course, and put thread locker in the idler pulley. Let's tighten that back down. But yeah, it took me a while, man. I kept going one tooth too far this way, one tooth too far the other way, but finally in time. I have thread locker on my belt, and there's a keeper. This is a belt keeper. There's one on the inside and there's one on the outside, and you may or may not be able to tell on camera, but there is a slight curve to it, and you want it to curve out away from the belt to give the belt a little additional room to slide in. So I guess that's concave on this side, goes out, and the convex goes on the inside when you're assembling. I'm gearing up to do valve lash adjustment, and you know, I just don't have a lot of confidence. I found a couple of different things, and the one that I'm going to go with is 0.25 millimeters on the exhaust side cold and 0.18 millimeters on the intake side cold. So I'll just rotate the engine around until I know I've got the number one cylinder's exhaust rocker arm loose. You can see the little bit of play that it's got there. Take my feeler gauge, and it does slide in pretty easy, so I'm going to tighten that up just a bit. I'm going to loosen the jam nut and then put a screwdriver in the center and tighten it, then tighten the jam nut back, and then I'll slide my feeler gauge in to see where we are. Okay, all three of the exhaust side needed to be tightened slightly, not much. Intake number one needed to be tightened a little bit, but 2 and 3 were fine. So that makes me think I'm looking at the right specs. Generally, I would expect more heat and contraction on the exhaust side. I would expect them to be slightly further out of spec. And then, 2 of the 3 on the intake side were still within spec. So hopefully I've assumed the correct clearance.